Cadet Riley Martinez had what her instructors politely called a talent for creative problem-solving, and what her classmates more accurately described as an alarming tendency to break things in new and exciting ways. At the Galactic Defense Academy, where cadets from 17 different species learned the fine art of not getting vaporized in interstellar conflicts, Riley stood out for all the wrong reasons. While her Kellyan classmates could disassemble and reassemble a plasma rifle blindfolded using all 4 of their arms simultaneously, Riley once spent 3 hours trying to figure out which end of an energy sword was supposed to glow. The Zenthari cadets moved through combat scenarios with the fluid grace of deadly space dolphins, but Riley had managed to trip over her own feet during a zero-gravity exercise, somehow defying several laws of physics in the process. Commander Vex, a slug-like Molteran, whose skin perpetually glistened with what Riley hoped was just natural moisture, had made it his personal mission to remind everyone that humans were essentially the galactic equivalent of that friend who gets invited to parties out of pity. Standing at the front of Combat Theory 101, his eye stalks would swivel toward Riley with the kind of disappointed expression usually reserved for burnt toast or failed diplomacy. As we can observe from Cadet Martinez's performance, Commander Vex would announce in his wet, bubbling voice, "Humans represent what we might charitably call the participation trophy species of our great galactic alliance. Adequate enthusiasm, minimal actual capability." Riley had learned to smile and nod during these little speeches. What Commander Vex didn't know was that while he was busy explaining why humans were basically cosmic deadweight, she'd been quietly figuring out how to hack the Academy's food dispensers to actually produce something that resembled coffee instead of the brown liquid sadness they normally served. She'd also reprogrammed her room's environmental controls to stop playing soothing nature sounds at 3 in the morning, and had successfully convinced the library's AI that she was authorized to access files way above her clearance level. But none of that counted as real military skill apparently. The Academy's final exam was approaching fast, a simple hostage rescue simulation that every previous class had completed in under 30 minutes. The exercise was designed to test basic infiltration, tactical thinking, and teamwork. According to the manual, it was a straightforward assessment of fundamental military competencies that any competent cadet should handle with minimal difficulty. Riley stared at the mission briefing on her datapad, and felt that familiar sinking sensation in her stomach. She had a sneaking suspicion that minimal difficulty was about to become maximum chaos, and somehow she'd end up being the one everyone blamed when things went sideways, again. When Riley discovered she'd been paired with Cadet Zark for the final simulation, she briefly considered whether faking a terminal illness might be preferable to the inevitable humiliation. Zark was a Kellyan who treated every training exercise like his personal audition for Galaxy's most tactical genius, complete with unnecessary combat roles and a habit of narrating his own actions, like he was starring in a holodrama. "Fear not, human," Zark announced, flexing all 4 of his muscular arms in what Riley assumed was meant to be reassuring. "I shall carry us both to victory with my superior Kellyan combat instincts." Riley smiled, the kind of smile people use when their dentist says this might pinch a little. She'd seen Zark's superior combat instincts in action before. Last week he'd gotten himself stuck in a ventilation shaft for 2 hours because he insisted on taking the more tactical route during a stealth exercise. Commander Vex oozed to the front of the briefing room, his eye stalks practically vibrating with condescension. "Your mission, cadets, is elegantly simple. Infiltrate the mock enemy base, rescue the hostage and extract cleanly. This is a stealth operation." He somehow managed to make the word stealth sound like it had about 17 extra syllables. "There will be absolutely no unnecessary violence, no property damage, and no embarrassing displays of species-typical incompetence." His gaze lingered on Riley for that last part. "The enemy base is staffed with our latest generation of training droids," Vex continued. "They are programmed for capture scenarios, not termination, so your safety is assured as long as you follow protocol. Cadet Zark will lead the infiltration. Cadet Martinez will serve as equipment carrier, and will endeavor not to compromise the mission through characteristically human unpredictability." Riley nodded along while mentally calculating whether she could reprogram her datapad to play games during what was sure to be a very long 30 minutes of watching Zark try to sneak around like a 4-armed rhinoceros in combat boots. "Remember," Commander Vex concluded with the air of someone delivering profound wisdom, "this simulation has been completed successfully by every class for the past 15 years. It is quite literally foolproof." Riley felt that familiar tickle of impending disaster. In her experience, the universe had a twisted sense of humor about things that were supposed to be foolproof. The simulation began at 0800 hours sharp, and by 0805, Riley was pretty sure they'd already broken some kind of record for fastest mission failure in Academy history. Zark had insisted on what he called a dynamic entry approach, which apparently meant rappelling through a skylight while shouting something that sounded like a Kellyan war cry, but might have just been him clearing his throat. The result was immediate and spectacular. Every alarm in the facility began shrieking like a mechanical banshee, emergency lights bathed everything in angry red, and the sound of combat boots echoed through the corridors as training droids mobilized from every direction. "This is still part of my tactical plan," Zark announced breathlessly as they sprinted down a maintenance corridor, pursued by the mechanical equivalent of very persistent, very armed mall security. "I am creating a distraction to mask our true objective." "What's our true objective again?" Riley panted, dodging a stun blast that left a scorch mark on the wall where her head had been a second earlier. "Rescue the hostage," and Zark's explanation was cut short as he ran face first into a blast door that had slammed shut in front of them. He bounced off the metal surface and landed in a heap of tangled limbs, looking like someone had dropped a box of muscular pool noodles. The training droids rounded the corner in perfect formation, their optical sensors glowing with what Riley was pretty sure was mechanical satisfaction. She helped Zark to his feet just as the lead droid announced in a cheerful synthetic voice, "Hostile cadets detected. Initiating capture protocol. Please remain stationary for efficient processing." Zark's forearms flailed in what might have been panic or an interpretive dance about tactical failure. "This is impossible. The simulation was supposed to last 30 minutes. We've been here 5 minutes and we're already surrounded." Riley looked at the approaching droids, then at her panicking partner, then at the maintenance panel next to the blast door. Something clicked in her brain, and not the kind of click that usually preceded her doing something inadvisable. This was the good kind of click, the kind she got when she realized that the Academy's food dispensers were just really expensive vending machines with attitude problems. "Zark," she said calmly, pulling out her multi-tool, "call for extraction." "What? But we haven't even found the hostage yet." "Call for extraction and surrender. Make it official." "I cannot surrender. My family has never surrendered." "Kellyans do not surrender. Your family also probably never got cornered by training droids because they tried to rappel through a skylight while yodeling." The droids were 10 meters away and closing. Riley popped open the maintenance panel and stared at the circuit board inside. Her grin was the kind of expression that would have made Commander Vex very, very nervous if he'd been there to see it. "Hey there, beautiful," she murmured to the circuitry. "Let's see what kind of operating system you're running." The circuit board looked back at Riley with the electronic equivalent of a familiar face. She'd seen this exact configuration before. Every morning at 0600, when she tried to coax the food dispensers into producing something that didn't taste like recycled cardboard mixed with existential despair. "Oh, you have got to be kidding me," she muttered, tracing a finger along the processor array. "They're running the same OS as the mess hall equipment." The training droids were now close enough that she could see her reflection in their optical sensors. Their leader announced helpfully, 5 seconds to compliance. "Please prepare for restraint application." Zark was making whimpering sounds that definitely weren't in any Kellyan warrior manual. "Riley, whatever you're doing, do it faster." "I'm not doing anything yet. I'm having a conversation." Riley pulled out a data cable and plugged it into the maintenance port. "See, these training droids, they're not actually military hardware. They're just security units running on the same platform as every other automated system in this academy. 3 seconds to compliance." Riley's fingers flew across her datapad's interface. The beautiful thing about institutional bulk purchasing is that some procurement officer probably bought 10,000 units of the same basic AI package and just slapped different job descriptions on them. She paused her typing to wave cheerfully at the nearest droid. "Hello there, I'm here about the vending machine on level 7. It's been dispensing the wrong coffee again." The lead droid's optical array flickered. "Processing query. Please specify nature of vending machine malfunction." Zark stared at Riley like she'd just started speaking in ancient Terran poetry. "What are you doing?" "Technical support," Riley replied, her tone shifting into the particular brand of patient exasperation she'd perfected after months of dealing with malfunctioning academy systems. "See, here's the thing about artificial intelligence. They're all really the same AI underneath, just with different job training. And this particular AI has a customer service subroutine that overrides pretty much everything else when you know how to trigger it." She pulled up a diagnostic interface that looked suspiciously like the one she used to hack extra dessert rations. "Now, according to your internal schematics, you boys have been having some performance issues lately. Lot of false alarms, incorrect threat assessments, that sort of thing." The droids actually lowered their weapons slightly. One of them said, "Affirmative. Recent updates have introduced 17 new error patterns." "Exactly. And I'm here to fix that. But first, I need to access your central command node to run a full system diagnostic. Riley kept typing while talking, uploading what looked like standard maintenance protocols but was actually a beautifully disguised virus she'd originally designed to make the coffee machines work properly. Your hostage situation up in the command center. That's probably part of the same glitch pattern. Hostage relocated to command center due to adaptive scenario enhancement. The lead droid confirmed helpfully. Riley grinned. The Academy's AI had decided to make the simulation more challenging by moving their target to the most heavily defended part of the base, which meant she couldn't just grab the hostage and run. She'd have to shut down the entire facility's defense grid to get everyone out safely. Right, that's definitely a bug, she said, fingers still dancing across her interface. Let me just access your central command protocols and there we go. The maintenance panel beeped cheerfully. Riley had just convinced the base's central computer that it wasn't actually a military installation at all. According to its new programming, it was now the Serenity Springs Wellness Resort and Spa, and all these heavily armed security personnel were actually very rude guests who were disturbing the peaceful atmosphere. What did you just do? Zark whispered. Riley unplugged her cable and closed the maintenance panel. I gave them a career change. Customer service is about to become their top priority. The facility's alarm system suddenly cut off, replaced by soft tinkling music that sounded like what elevators played when they were having pleasant dreams. A soothing voice echoed through the corridors. Welcome to Serenity Springs Wellness Resort. We apologize for the disturbance. All hostile elements are currently being relocated to our comfortable extended stay accommodations for their safety and peace of mind. The training droids looked at each other with the mechanical equivalent of confusion, then began speaking in chorus. Honored guests, we must ask that you proceed to the relaxation center while we address the current security concerns. Complimentary refreshments will be provided. Riley started walking toward the command center like she owned the place. Come on, Zark. Time to go collect our hostage and maybe grab a smoothie on the way out. The transformation of the enemy base was nothing short of magical in the way that really good malware is magical. As Riley and Zark made their way through corridors that had been designed for combat operations and were now trying very hard to be a luxury wellness facility, the sheer scope of Riley's hack became apparent. Emergency lighting had shifted from angry red to a soothing amber that was supposed to promote relaxation and positive chakra alignment. The blast doors had retracted and been replaced by gentle force fields that hummed with what the facility's AI cheerfully announced were negative ions for enhanced mental clarity. Even the walls had somehow sprouted decorative panels displaying scenic nature views from 17 different planets, complete with the sound of alien birds chirping peacefully in the background. This is impossible, Zark muttered, his forearms hanging limp at his sides as they passed what had once been a weapons storage room and was now advertising itself as the Tranquility Crystal Meditation Chamber. You cannot simply reprogram an entire military installation to think it is a resort. Apparently I can, Riley replied, accepting a complimentary towel from a service droid that had materialized beside them. The droid was still obviously armed for combat, but it had somehow acquired a little name tag that read "Hello, my name is Zen" and was offering them cucumber water from a tray mounted where its ammo dispenser used to be. They passed a group of what had been elite training droids now gently but firmly escorting confused enemy personnel toward what the signs labeled as private relaxation suites. The droids were speaking in voices that had been artificially modulated to sound like they'd all taken customer service training at the galaxy's most expensive spa. Sir, if you could please step this way, we have a lovely quiet room prepared for you with aromatherapy and sound dampening for optimal rest and rejuvenation. One droid was saying to a very bewildered-looking training instructor who was supposed to be playing an enemy commander. I'm afraid your combat equipment will need to be stored in our secure wellness locker facility for safety reasons. The instructor looked like he was trying to figure out whether this was part of the simulation or if he'd accidentally wandered into a fever dream. But I'm supposed to be defending the command center. I understand your concerns, sir, but our wellness protocols require all guests to participate in mandatory relaxation therapy during high-stress periods. Please don't make this more difficult than it needs to be. Riley watched with growing amazement as her hack propagated through the facility's systems. The base's AI had embraced its new identity with the kind of enthusiasm usually reserved for recent converts to pyramid schemes. Every security measure had been reinterpreted through the lens of hospitality management. The heavily fortified command center doors slid open to reveal what looked like the executive lounge of a very expensive hotel. Soft music played from hidden speakers. The tactical displays had been replaced with relaxing screensavers showing floating jellyfish and slowly rotating geometric patterns. And sitting in what had once been the command chair, now transformed into something that looked like a massage chair crossed with a therapist's couch, was Cadet Jessica Wu, who was supposed to be their hostage. Jessica looked up at them with the expression of someone who'd given up trying to understand what was happening. "Oh good, you're here. I've been getting a complimentary scalp massage for the last 10 minutes and I think the chair is trying to analyze my stress levels." "Are you being held against your will?" Zark asked, apparently still trying to figure out how to file a mission report about this situation. "Well, the AI keeps insisting that I need to complete my relaxation therapy session before I'm allowed to leave, but it's also offering me exotic fruit smoothies and asking about my preferred room temperature." Jessica gestured helplessly at a service panel that was displaying what looked like a customer satisfaction survey. "I think it wants me to rate my hostage experience on a scale of 1 to 10. Riley looked around the command center, taking in the complete transformation. Through the large windows she could see training personnel being gently but inexorably herded toward what the base now considered guest quarters. The facility's defense grid had shut down completely because according to its new programming, weapons were inconsistent with the peaceful atmosphere of a wellness retreat. "So," she said slowly, "we've successfully rescued the hostage, neutralized all enemy personnel, captured the entire facility and done it all without firing a single shot or causing any structural damage." Zark's eye stalks were practically spinning with confusion. "But we did not mean to capture the facility. We were supposed to perform a stealth extraction. Sometimes the best stealth is when your enemy doesn't realize they've been defeated because they're too busy enjoying complimentary refreshments." Riley replied philosophically, accepting a smoothie from another service droid. It was actually pretty good, mango with some kind of sparkling mineral water that tasted faintly of victory. The base's AI chose that moment to make an announcement. "Attention honored guests, the Serenity Springs management is pleased to report that all security concerns have been resolved. All hostile elements have been successfully relocated to our extended stay accommodations where they will remain for the duration of their wellness journey. We hope you are enjoying your visit and remind you that checkout time is flexible based on your individual relaxation needs." Riley sipped her smoothie and grinned. Sometimes the universe's sense of humor worked in her favor. The debrief session in Commander Vex's office 3 hours later was, Riley reflected, probably going to be talked about in Academy legend for decades to come. The commander sat behind his desk looking like someone had told him that gravity was now optional, and he wasn't sure whether to be impressed or file a complaint with the physics department. "Let me ensure I understand the situation correctly," Vex said, his eye stalks weaving back and forth in what Riley had learned was the Molteran equivalent of a stress response. A routine 30-minute hostage rescue simulation resulted in the complete conquest of an enemy installation by a human cadet who never discharged a weapon, never engaged in combat, and somehow convinced the facility's entire defense network that it was operating a luxury resort. "That's a pretty accurate summary," Riley agreed, setting down her datapad where she'd been reviewing the technical details of her hack. "Though I prefer to think of it as aggressive customer service rather than conquest." The review board members seated around the office represented 7 different species and looked like they were all having the same migraine simultaneously. Admiral Karith, a distinguished Zenthuri whose tentacles usually moved with serene grace, was twitching like he'd been plugged into a low-voltage power source. "Cadet Martinez," Admiral Karith said carefully, "your performance raises several questions about our current training protocols. And our security systems," added General Thrix, a massive Bordeauxan, whose rocky exterior was radiating heat in a way that suggested internal combustion of some kind. "The fact that our entire defense network can be compromised by treating it like a malfunctioning coffee machine is concerning." Riley nodded thoughtfully. "In fairness, your coffee machines have much better security than your military systems. I had to work a lot harder to get decent espresso than I did to take over that base." The silence that followed was the kind of silence that occurred when everyone in the room realized they'd just learned something deeply uncomfortable about their institution's priorities. Commander Vex cleared his throat with a sound like someone gargling with carbonated mucus. "The technical review of your actions shows a level of systems integration knowledge that is unprecedented among cadets. Where exactly did you acquire expertise in military-grade artificial intelligence architecture?" "I didn't," Riley said honestly. "I just know how to talk to computers that aren't doing what they're supposed to do. Whether that's a food dispenser or a combat droid, the basic principles are the same. You figure out what they think they're supposed to be doing, and then you convince them they're supposed to be doing something else. You reprogrammed an entire military installation using techniques you developed to improve cafeteria service," General Thrix said slowly, as if saying it out loud might make it make more sense. "And environmental controls. And the library system. And the laundry facilities, because whoever programmed those things apparently thought that gentle cycles meant spin fast enough to achieve low orbit." Riley shrugged. "Honestly, the military stuff was easier. Combat AIs are designed to follow orders without question. Vending machines are just naturally suspicious. Admiral Coreth's tentacles had stopped twitching and were now moving in what Riley was pretty sure was the Zenthari equivalent of deep thought. Your final assessment shows perfect marks for mission completion, tactical innovation, and resource management. However, you also receive citations for unauthorized system modification, exceeding mission parameters, and what our psychological evaluation team is calling constructive insubordination. Is that good or bad? Riley asked. We're honestly not sure, admitted Commander Vex. The disciplinary board has decided that your punishment will be assignment to Academy maintenance duty, where you will assist with ongoing system optimization and troubleshooting. Riley felt a grin spreading across her face. So my punishment is getting official authorization to tinker with all the systems I've been unofficially tinkering with anyway. That appears to be the situation, yes. And I assume this means I'll have administrative access to the main Academy computer network. The pause that followed was pregnant with the kind of possibilities that made Academy administrators wake up in cold sweats. Within reason, General Thrix said quickly. Supervised access, with oversight, and multiple approval protocols. Riley nodded seriously, while mentally cataloging all the ways she could probably circumvent multiple approval protocols. The Academy's main computer system had been on her list of interesting technical challenges, but she'd never had a good excuse to really dig into it. Now she had official permission to explore, optimize, and undoubtedly discover all sorts of fascinating security vulnerabilities. I understand completely, she said with the kind of innocent expression that had made her parents very nervous when she was 12 and claimed she was just organizing her little brother's room. As the review board members filed out, Commander Vex remained behind, fixing Riley with a stare that somehow managed to be suspicious and resigned at the same time. Cadet Martinez, he said. I want you to know that while your methods were unorthodox, the results speak for themselves. You may have accidentally discovered a new form of warfare. Aggressive customer service, Riley suggested. Weaponized technical support, Vex corrected. The idea that you can defeat an enemy by convincing their own systems to work against them is actually quite brilliant. In a terrifying, completely unpredictable way. Riley gathered her things and headed for the door. Thank you, sir. I'll try to keep the terror to a minimum. As she left the office, she could hear Commander Vex muttering something about humans and their characteristic unpredictability. She smiled and pulled out her datapad to examine the access codes she'd just been given to the Academy's maintenance systems. Time to see what other interesting customer service opportunities were available around campus. After all, she was just trying to help everyone have a better educational experience. The Academy's main computer probably needed some optimization anyway.